A very hearty welcome to this first webinar in the thematic network on VHTs and AI, entitled Building a Responsible Ecosystem Solution with Engaged Stakeholders for the Adoption of AI and Virtual Human Twins in Health. I'm Lies Geers, I'm the Executive Director of the VPH Institute. With me in the room is also Dr. Janaki Ramanrangarayan, who is our Scientific Officer, and he will be the animator or the chair of the later panel session. This is, I mentioned, the first webinar. It's the first of two webinars where we're trying to engage with additional people and explain what the VHT and AI in health are about, what they can do, and get input to prepare a final statement that would reflect the current state of the art in the field, and also some of the upcoming challenges, perhaps, that we need to address together. The first one will be focusing on AI as a facilitator for realizing the VHT, and what the VHT is will follow in a minute. And the second one will then specifically focus on facilitating the path to adoption. So it will be around the same theme, but we will see different participation of different stakeholders and speakers. So with that, I'd like to repeat the agenda that you have seen, and just stress that there are several moments in which your participation would be most welcome, as you can see here with the arrows. And in order to practice that just a little bit and also get a better feeling of who you are and what the expertise is for everyone to see, we would like to start with two small poll questions. So if you could please take your phone and scan the QR code, or go to wooklab.com and enter the event code. We can get started with two short questions. So I will start the first one that should be appearing. You can see the event code still on the top of the slide, should you not have been able to catch it. And the link is also posted in the chat. So this one talks about what sector or stakeholder the different people present in the webinar belong to. We'll give it a little bit more time to for most people to join. I think we have a good, yeah, even if you are joining late, you can click on the link and participate in the next questions. They will automatically be updated. I think this is already a pretty stable view. It gives a nice overview of the distribution of the people that are present here, from civil society, from academia, industry, but also from the policymakers side. So thank you for this. And then the second question is just a little bit to get to give us an understanding of your understanding. So when you hear the words virtual human twins, whether you know the concept from before, yes or no, when you hear it, can you indicate how familiar you are with some of the concepts? So on the left, so 1 is not familiar at all, and 5 is very familiar. So any of these, so all of these 5 statements, could you rate how much you agree with them? Okay, some interesting evolutions that are popping up, that most people do understand the notions of digital twins and how they can intervene in healthcare. There's a bit more divided opinions on whether or not a virtual human twin needs to be personal at all times. And there seems to be an agreement that twins can be relevant for population assessment, and that they are not just another word per se for artificial intelligence. Okay. So this question will remain open. So those who haven't had the chance and want to contribute, you can do so still while I go on with the introduction, which is now clear that I don't need to start from absolute zero, but I would still like to introduce a few concepts so that for the rest of the conversation, we all know what we are talking about. So let me start with the VHT itself, the European Virtual Human Twin Initiative, and we will hear more about what it actually all entails. So I'll limit myself to the concept, and that is a network and an infrastructure that the European Commission is building with the aim of accelerating personalized care to bring tangible benefits to citizens and patients. And one important aspect of that is, of course, also to bring the entire community together so that we can learn from each other. Now, what is a twin? When we hear the concept of digital twin, which has existed in engineering for a very long time, there is this implication between the back and forth between the physical and the digital twin. Now, in a healthcare context, we have slightly enlarged this definition to the use of individual-specific models for all stages of health and care. So prevention, prediction, screening, diagnosis, and treatment, but also the evaluation, optimization, selection, de-risking, selection, and personalization of intervention options. So being it medical devices or drugs. Nevertheless, this interaction between, in order for it to be a twin, the interaction between the physical and the virtual still is important. And in a healthcare environment, this would typically be done through a human in the loop decision-making or interaction, which can be the physician, which can be the patient themselves, which can be people in industry or academia when they're working on medical products. The digital twin is indeed, as people correctly understood, not one thing. We can have multiple digital twins. They can sit at the level of a single cell, at a tissue, an organ, or the entire system for specific questions where they are fit for purpose, where they are made to serve a specific purpose, answer specific questions. They can also be used to look at the efficacy or the planning of the placement of certain therapies. In this case, you see an occluder device that is occluding the appendage in the left atrium. And what you see here is with computational fluid dynamics, people are checking whether fluid actually reaches still the appendix when the occluder has been placed, which would be a sign that the occluder is not placed correctly. We can look at digital twins of manufacturing setups. Like here you see the production of cell growth or cell proliferation in a 3D printed scaffold in a bioreactor for cell expansion. And then there are twins of entire medical facilities. So all of these share common challenges, but also can be very different in the challenges that they face technological wise and other challenges, depending on the specific question of interest. One of the things that is important to notice also is that the technologies that are used to build the virtual twin can be across the entire spectrum of in silico technologies. What does that mean? We can have twins that focus purely on AI, machine learning, so purely on data-driven strategies. And a typical example of that in health and care is the use of AI tools to create personalized or diagnostics based on medical images. The other aspect would be, or the other side of the spectrum would be the white box models, where we start from knowledge in the form of laws of physics, of chemistry, biological mechanisms that have been identified that then get transferred into mathematics and are used that way. But most of the times when we are using a digital twin, there is a part that we don't know yet, or for which we don't have any data yet. So we have to make a combination of different technologies in order to properly answer a question. So all of these can go into a digital twin. For the past couple of years, the European Commission has had a coordination and support action called EDITH that brought together the entire ecosystem, so with all the different stakeholders in the context of virtual human twins that jointly thought or pondered and discussed about what would be the roadmap to realize the actual the objectives of the virtual human twin initiative. And so it became a quite substantial document that really, from the needs to the stakeholders, to the challenges, this goes on to describe the technology that is behind it, the infrastructure needs for the virtual human twin, and then goes on with the regulatory, the standards, the HTA, the ethical, legal, social issues, the incentives, the uptake in the market, and with recommendations. And for those who would find 300 pages too daunting, there is also an executive summary that is much shorter, which focuses on the why, the what, and the who. Now, as I mentioned, one important aspect is the ecosystem, the VHT ecosystem that was established, where you see at the bottom left, we start with the patients and the CSOs that are crucial, together with the healthcare providers that form the users of the virtual human twin, or the ones that ultimately will use the technologies that have been developed, or the products that come from that. We have, if we move counterclockwise, the developers of the virtual human twins. We have the communities, the scientific communities, clinical communities that can act as catalysts in this entire network. Then we have the support, so the infrastructure actors, the funding, the financial actors, so the enablers. And then we have the managers, so providing the context, which would be the governing actors and the LC actors. Important to know is that all across the globe, these different communities are getting established, that there is a large interest in digital twins. And that would be something that we're going to explore also later on. If we go from this ecosystem view to a more value chain perspective, you see the same stakeholders coming back, but then now in a linear fashion, starting with society, going from the society at large to the policy, the public sector, moving to knowledge creation, innovation, regulation, care delivery, payers, purchasers, and the society again as the takers. Now, this first webinar, we will focus on the ends of the value chain with the patients and the care providers and the public sector, or sorry, the policymakers. And then the next one, we will focus on adoption, which means again looking at HTA and the buyers and the purchasers. But to make it just a little bit more concrete, before we get going on or we give the floor to the speakers, Professor Irène Vignon-Clémentel is here to explain how this value chain, what this looks like in her country, in France, and will show us a number of initiatives at all these different levels and for all these different stakeholders within the French ecosystem. Irène, thank you very much for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Liz. So I believe you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So it's everything is stemming out of the population, actually, because we are all patients at some point or another, or we have patients around us. So actually, patients structure themselves through federations of patients. There are also foundations that are being created and that, for example, against cancer, and that provide funding and important information to patients and their families. And there are a lot of us institutions that take care of the outreach of science. So during the week in October of the so-called Fête de la Science, and we also have programs for high school to reach, in particular, girls in high school to promote science. And I think this interface with health is a good one to attract young minds to science. Next. At the policy and public health level, so the French Ministry of Health is particularly active on promoting digital science and health. It has created a number of years ago an agency of the digital world in health, Agence du numérique en santé. And there are a number of documents that have stemmed out of the ministry or some of the agencies on innovation in health, and so that we have a roadmap in France towards 2030 to promote innovation in health. And in particular, in 2021, there is a digital twins in health program that was put together, and you see here the report. Next. So in particular, there are 4 axes that have been created to tackle health and how the digital world can help the health system. So in prevention, in also helping professionals to have more time to take care of their patients, in promoting a better access to health throughout the country, and also to develop an environment that is that helps to promote innovation in health. Next. So this is possible through dedicated funding, and in particular, there is a funding called PEPR on digital health, which was launched in 2024, as well as the France 2030, so French 2030, which has put quite a bit of money on the table to push really innovation, in particular AI for health. Next. So among the projects we can, I mean, there are many projects on digital twins in France, funded by France. One of them, for example, is the project Juno, which is on creating digital twins for emergency departments. Another one is a national one called MediTwin around the company Dassault Systèmes, and a lot of different university hospitals in France, as well as INRIA, so my institute, to develop digital twins in health. And then a number of us are also taking an important role in EU projects, such as the one Artemis noted here. On the medtech side, so there are also large companies involved in digital twins, such as Sanofi, Servier, or Dassault Systèmes, so both in pharmaco and other types of digital twins, as well as like a number of startups that have emerged in the last 10 years in particular. And the same, either in pharmacology or in digital twins of different organs. Next. So at the regulatory level, we have the high authority in health, and then we have the CNIL, which is taking care of the GDPR, as well as the NSM for the regulation of drugs and products in health. Next. Recently, like I think it was launched last year or 2 years ago, there is a cloud that has been launched for patients to have their own health space in which they can put and share their data with clinicians and hospitals. Next. And then, of course, reimbursement is a critical step in that process in the adoption of digital twins. So in particular, the High Authority of Health is considering digital twins more and more. And for example, there is the Digital Advanced Care, which is there as a fast track reimbursement of digital health technologies. So with this, I hope that I presented you a little bit of the landscape of what's going on in France, and I'll give back the floor to Liz. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene, for this overview that provides the perspective on how this entire value chain can actually work within one of the member states. So to activate everybody before we go to the speakers, one last series of questions in the WooClap poll. So if you can just go back to your phone or your screen, it should still be active. And then you should see the next question appear, but I will have to turn off, I think, my pointer so that I can click it. There we go. The question here is to indicate your level of awareness with the following concepts that are listed there, where 1 is low awareness and 5 is full awareness. So how familiar are you with these concepts? Yeah, we have seem to have a nice distribution of expertise across the entire spectrum of people present here, but landing us all around a score of 3 out of 5, so half familiar with the concepts. Maybe that means that we've heard of it, but not yet have any hands-on experience. Thank you very much for this. Then we move on to the next one, which would be to get the priority applications for VHT and AI, so applications of in silico technologies in clinical practice or in practice in general in healthcare. You can indicate, would be nice if you can indicate up to 3 options. If you go into the app, you can enter specific information, but you don't have to. Maybe for those who want to choose the category others, would be nice if you can indicate what other might be, but that's optional. It's not necessary to submit. People seem to be mostly happy with the choices that were given, where there is the care pathway challenge is something that is considered less important, but definitely discovery. So early phases of the healthcare development or the healthcare value chain, and then improving and optimizing clinical trials, clinical decision support, and health management. Okay. Next question would be, in your opinion, the VHT AI adoption in clinical practice, what should it focus on? And here, if you can give up to 2 of your choices, that would be great. Thank you. And same as the previous question, you can enter comments if you want to. We will look at them in a minute, and we can maybe draw back from those for the discussion at the end of this session. There is a hand raised. We have a Q&A part later, so I don't know if it's an urgent question related to the continuation of the session or just a discussion topic. And if it's a discussion topic, then maybe I can invite you to raise your hand again later. You can also always communicate in the chat, and then people will help you further if there is a technical issue. Okay, thank you very much. Seems that personalization and prevention seem to be the winners here, but also the looking at equity, really, that is an important aspect. Good. Almost at the end. This one is a word cloud, so you can type whatever you want to type, whatever comes to mind when you hear the concept responsible ecosystem with engaged stakeholders. So there's many ways to realize this. What would be your take? What do you think is important? What does this mean for you? You can submit more than one answer, so you can type whatever comes to mind and then just submit whenever after every word or concept. Very nice. Yes, inclusivity remains the number one, with many other terms also related to credibility assessment, to data, to make sure that everybody is on board and that there is in every way possible meeting all stakeholders. So also from a credibility perspective, from a validation across the entire ecosystem. Ethics is coming back also several times. Empowerment. Yes, thank you very much. This is very interesting material. This is not just also for the context of this webinar, but we will be using this for the final statement as input and inspiration. I'm going to leave it here. The question will remain open, but I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague Janaki for the introduction of the different experts and the chairing of the panel discussion. Janaki.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to have you all join us for the session. As Professor Lees introduced the ecosystem that we are thinking, especially the healthcare professionals together with the patients as our primary users and beneficiaries. So we see healthcare professionals as the users of VHT and AI in the first place, but of course it should benefit the patients. So we would like to have the voice from that specific segment of audience. So to address to them, we will have Professor Gernot Marx from University Hospital of Aachen share his perspectives, followed by Mrs. Gudse Biggs from European Patient Forum, who also has a distinguished role from Data Save Lives as a senior advisor and one of the founding members of the initiative, followed by, of course, patients and clinicians are beneficiaries and users who are going to make this adoption possible. We cannot do that without the policymakers. So that is the left half of the ecosystem drawing that you see. So we would like to hear from the Commission representatives in Dr. Margarita Fonos and Dr. Janos Tolias to share with us what are the initiatives that is coming up from the Commission side to walk us through of what is needed to see the adoption of these technologies, be it PhD and AI. How can they really make the difference on ground rather than just promises? So that's what we would explore in the next 20-25 minutes. I will pass on the floor to Professor Gabnath, and then followed by patient representative will speak.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Janaki, now I want, share here hope everything goes well here. So, can you see the slides now?
No, we can see your Explorer.
Sorry for this. Again. I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, we see your shared screen now.
Yes.
I have to select the PowerPoint. I see that it's already open.
Yes.
Okay, you click on it. There you go, and then full screen.
Yes, like
There
this.
you go. Perfect.
Sorry for the delay. So, dear Lise, dear Janaki, thanks for the introduction. My name is Gerald Marx. I'm head of department of the intensive care unit in Aachen. Here's my conflict of interest. So currently I'm the president of the German Society of Anesthesiology and Intensive Care Medicine. And I'm here working at the University Hospital of Aachen, roughly 1,400 beds and a lot of ICU beds, and we are caring for around 50,000 patients, inpatient, and 200,000 outpatients, so a huge hospital in the western part of Germany. And my own department is the Department of Intensive Care Medicine, comprising out of more than 100 ICU beds, and we are caring roughly about 5,000 patients per year. So why intensivists talking here now about AI? But if you remember to the pandemic, and we have other catastrophes coming or thereafter, you have learned about intensive care medicine and why it is important for survival if you are critically ill. And but it's not only during a pandemic when intensive care medicine is important. Our main enemy is really a syndrome called sepsis. So when an infection goes overwhelming and is life-threatening. And here's a recent publication. So 166 million people globally have sepsis, and more than 21 million die globally per year, and this represents more than 30% of the total global death rate. So this is obviously absolutely important, and I just give you some numbers. This was a prospective trial in Germany we did recently, and here you see that in Germany, when you have the severest form, more than 50% of our patients die despite being cared on ICU. And the number is probably even more important in the next upcoming years, because we have more and more resistance in our patients and less working antibiotics. So really the problem is growing. When we talk about intensive care medicine, the beauty and the reason I'm talking here to you is because we have a lot of digitization in our units. We are collecting our data on digitized, so we have not only the pictures, the lab values, the monitoring devices, so we have really 1,000 data per hour per patient, really throughout Europe, throughout the world, really, at least in some parts of the world. In Germany, we have probably 2/3 of our units are completely digitized, and we have a lot of data now, and therefore we have a base to create AI algorithms. I just see here some pictures. We also do a lot of telemedicine, and this is a good combination because then we have not only the data from our university hospitals, but also data from our non-university hospitals, where in Germany at least 90% of all patients are looked after. And just showing you here our largest randomized controlled trial with 160,000 patients. And we could show here that we have an increase in guideline adherence for the management of sepsis, and this led to a reduction of 5%, and I just showed you how important that is. Now, we also transferred our telemedicine experience towards Europe during the pandemic, and we really deployed here telemedicine to different member states, and also using new products. And the beauty of this new product is that we can connect certified AI algorithms already in the care of our patients today. So whatever is, when you have really a new technology on your units, then you can already use and buy in really very fancy AI algorithm, for example, to identify illnesses like renal failure as early as possible. Coming now to the topic, the artificial intelligence, I'll give you just one example I did with Andreas Schuppert, who always was part of the Virtual Twin initiative and worked very closely with these for an example. And here we looked to sepsis data, and Andreas Schuppert is a very clever colleague, really, and he used a special algorithm from the financial sector. And then it was possible to identify sepsis patients. So the red ones are septic, the non-septic are blue. You see here the clock, and we see roughly about 12 hours before we really could identify patients who will be septic without any clinical signs compared to a non-septic patient. This is not 100%, but very, very good. And we talk about the first 6 golden hours of sepsis treatment. And when we have 10 hours before, this will probably have the opportunity and the potential of saving thousands and thousands of lives throughout the world. We did also a lot of AI during the pandemic. This is a German picture, I know, but this was our register of ICU beds throughout Germany, because obviously we were always a little bit threatened that we didn't provide enough ICU capacity for all these COVID-19 patients who needed an intensive care medicine. And together with Professor Schuppert, I just mentioned, we developed here, based on these data from our national registry. You see in green, this was the capacity needed compared to the incidence of corona. And for an example, here this was in May 21, and we had here 5,000 beds, and it was really threatened. And we could foresee with AI algorithms how the capacity needed would increase if the incidence would increase to 300 or lower. And this was for our national government. Really, they based their decisions to do a lockdown or not, partly at least due to this AI algorithm and data. Just to show you the power really data and AI algorithm have already in the clinical area, especially in those special situations as a pandemic. Coming now to the end, where we are now, we are building up now the European health data space, and this will give us, at least here, the ICU data for Europe is an EU-funded project for the corner of intensive care medicine within the European health data space. And together with many partners and friends, we're building up now a standardized way of collecting many data, obviously with all the data security and safety, etc., etc. But this will give us really a lot of opportunity and potential to develop more AI algorithm and to really make the most out of the data. And I foresee here really a very bright future with the European health data space for our patients we are looking for. And then lastly, also another EU-funded project. There is a lack of citizens having enough skills in the digitization, and therefore we are very grateful that the EU funds also a new master program we do in 6 universities throughout Europe, and we want to have more than 400 master students after this program. So therefore we increase the number of people who really get used and can use all the potential we produce now by digitization and AI. So I conclude now that AI and the virtual twin in the clinical area, at least in the intensive care medicine, where we have a lot of digitized data already, is urgently needed. I showed you how dangerous and how many people died due to diseases and people we cannot save so far. I see a very high potential in the use of AI and digital transformation, and we will have more personal, improved care in the future. We will have a better outcome. AI and the virtual twin will save many lives. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, now I welcome Lutzi to share her perspectives. There will not be any slides, but we would like to listen in from Lutzi, her perspectives on how we should approach this in terms of clinical adoption from a patient's perspective, but also from our learnings on digital data saves lives initiative. Over to you, Lutzi. You want to share a slide?
Great, thank you, Yannick. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So from my side, I just would like to maybe briefly mention who I work for. I work for European Patients Forum. We're a pan-European patient umbrella organization based in Brussels, Belgium. We work mainly on the advocacy or also policy side of the patient's voice at the EU level, but we also work quite closely on the EU projects, EU-funded projects, and also capacity building activities for our members. We have 82 pan-European patient organizations as our members. Mainly, we represent the chronic disease patients in Europe. But we also have some cancer patient organizations or rare disease organizations as our members. So today I wanted to touch base on the very important part of the digital twins, which is actually the data part of the conversation. Because as you know, as much as it's a very innovative, a future-looking solution for healthcare, for patients and citizens in general, it's actually a data governance and trust subject. So like it was mentioned by Lisbeth as well, the black box side of the story. So it's very crucial from our side to touch base on the data side. Which it comes to AI, we're doing exactly the same because we believe it is the foundation of all these innovative future technologies that are going to be built on data. And in that aspect, we see some risks that we are trying to advocate for, also trying to bring to the attention of the authorities and also policymakers, is the concerns from, so the EPF's position side is the legal compliance is something very important, but it's not enough. And patients need clarity, transparency, and also they would like to understand the anonymization, pseudonymization, the whole re-identification risks, and patients understanding about the data flows in the whole future-looking technologies or innovations. So it's one of the aspects. And then, of course, if people feel exposed, they tend to opt out and data stops saving lives. So these are key elements that we have to be very careful when we're talking about innovation and future-looking solutions. And of course, the other aspect is the quality of data. And I'm not mentioning about the quality of data in the common understanding sense, but it's also the biases and also the invisible exclusions, which is that could be unrepresented groups. So which is a key element for EPF side as well. Validation must demonstrate not only accuracy, but equity. So we must always ask, who does this model not work for? So we have to always keep in mind that the inclusivity is a key element when it comes big data collections or anything that is going to be developed based on health data collected from patients and citizens. So data only saves lives when it represents real lives, which is one of the key elements we also try and highlight. One of the other things is, of course, its prioritization and eligibility, and also clear purpose limitation is essential. So digital twins must never be used for to replace accountable human judgment. So it has to be something that will always support, but not replace. Because trust actually comes when used to expense if we don't show the transparency around it. So in that aspect, what we have discussed at EPF level 7 years ago now was an initiative we set up in Brussels as EPF, the secretariat, called Data Saves Lives. So we are a multi-stakeholder initiative. Actually, we tried to establish a structure, a conversation, which is actually aims to raise wider patient and public awareness about the importance of health data and importance of responsible health data sharing. And that this way we try to bring a bit more understanding of how it's used already, and then how it can be used as a potential for the future so it can actually save more lives. So what we actually started to do is we first acknowledged the gaps. We wanted to identify where our organizations, our members are at. And then, of course, when we started discussions, we wanted to have multiple different in-person events. We wanted to bring different stakeholders together. Thing was, of course, we had COVID-19 kind of took over, and then we turned everything into digital. This way, we focused a lot on social media. And what we decided to do actually was very key. We brought different stakeholders together with patient organizations, not directly patients themselves, because it's a very difficult reach for us. So we have to be very realistic when we are reaching out to communities. You have to know who you can really reach at the first stage, and then see how they can actually channel it down to their own experts. So in that aspect, we managed to reach out to our members. We tried to understand their current understanding of data and health data, and building on it AI and patient organizations as data partners to see how it's actually legally possible without getting yourselves into trouble to have your own data infrastructures and be able to actually work together with governments maybe to be able to complement their registries. So there were a lot of conversations took place. We managed to organize boot camps with our members where we actually hands-on discussions about what AI can do, what data can do, what they can do together, and also be able to bring the EHDS conversation, because it was really the peak time of the whole discussion. Of course, we are still trying to bring more patient organizations together for the conversations, but of course, as you can imagine, in-person events are costly, and we have to be very cautious of the timing. So what's the future for Data Saves Lives is we would like to be able to establish Data Saves Lives in the national levels. So where we can actually make the conversation in the national levels, running parallel any innovation, any future-looking solution for healthcare systems, call it EHDS, call it digital twin, call it whatever you would like to call for the implementation for healthcare systems to improve. We would like an initiative like Data Saves Lives to run parallel, which works with the people, works with the communities, and give them understanding of what we're talking about so they can have meaningful contributions to the discussion, not just a tick box, but also a meaningful partnership in the whole discussion. So in that sense, we are working on it. I will share here on the chat as well the Data Saves Lives website. So you'll be able to go and visit, and you will be able to also follow us on the social media. We would like to get the group and the community larger every year, so that we can have a larger outreach on the national levels with different languages. So from my side, that would be all, but I'd be happy to have the conversation after the panel discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Gernot, as well, for this inspiring landscape that you have painted. In sake of time, I would immediately pass on to our colleagues from the Commission, welcome Margarita to help us walk through what are the various initiatives coming from the Commission in this space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So in my presentation, I will give a brief overview on the latest developments on AI policy at EU level, and then I will go into a bit more details on the European Virtual Human Twins initiative. So this is just to put the AI Continent Action Plan on your radar. It's really the key document setting the stage for AI policy in the EU. It sets out 5 domains where action is needed to accelerate and intensify for the EU to become a leading AI continent. And for each of these domains, you see on the slide, there are a number of actions that have already been started for a number of years, that have already been funded, that are really directly relevant to the healthcare sector. For example, in terms of enhancing access to high quality data, of course, the European Health Data Space Regulation is highly relevant, as well as health data infrastructures that the Commission is funding or co-funding, for example, genomic data infrastructure and the Cancer Image Europe. In terms of building a strong AI talent base, there are a number of projects that are funded under the EU for Health or the digital program. And in terms of unlocking access to large-scale computing capacities, there's been investment at EU level for AI factories and gigafactories, and more than 15 out of the 19 AI factories specialize in health and life sciences. And then maybe I will give an overview quickly on the Apply AI strategy, which is one of the latest developments in AI policy. This was adopted in October last year, and it really complements the AI action plan, translating the action plan in practice and focusing really on the uptake of AI. It's structured into 3 sections. One looks at sectoral flagships, so actions to enhance the adoption and use of AI across 10 strategic industrial sectors and the public sector. It addresses also cross-cutting challenges to support the adoption of AI, and then it establishes a governance mechanism, including setting up the Apply AI Alliance, which is a forum for policymakers, industry, academia, and civil society. There are a number of flagships for the healthcare sector. I will just briefly mention 2 of them. One is the establishment of a European network of expertise on AI deployment. And a second one is the establishment of a European network of AI-powered advanced screening centers. And a call for expression of interest will open shortly, still in Q1 of this year. And I believe my colleague Janos, that has just joined, will also talk a little bit more about the Apply AI strategy in his presentation. I will now turn to the European Virtual Human Twins initiative, which has already been mentioned by Liz as the framework that the Commission launched in 2023 to support the emergence and the adoption of the next generation of VHT solutions in health and care. And I was really happy to see in one of the polls the word inclusivity and integration come up on the screen. This is really why the Commission launched the initiative. There is a vibrant ecosystem in the EU that's working on virtual human twin solutions. But at the time when the initiative was launched, what we saw was really that there was a fragmentation of the ecosystem and stakeholders working in silos. There was a fragmentation of different models and data that we actually are trying to support in terms of integration across models, across scales of anatomy, and across types of data being used for these modeling solutions. So this is really how we picture the initiative. It's an umbrella of actions that support building an inclusive ecosystem, supporting research and innovation in this area, the deployment of infrastructure, and what we call the uptake in the clinical settings, what we call the last mile. So really bridging the last gap and support the use of these solutions in health and care. Under the actions for the ecosystem, of course, we see the EDIS coordination and support action that has already been mentioned earlier, a very successful action that produced a roadmap, which was published in December 25. Of course, we see the current, the reason why we are here today, of course, this thematic network and the VHT manifest. So this is a statement of intent, which is on VHT development, evidence and adoption in healthcare systems. It's a statement of intent that aims to promote collaboration among different types of stakeholders. And it keeps the stakeholders engaged in the VHT initiative. So we encourage very much your organization to sign up to the manifesto. If you don't see your organization on the screen, then maybe it's a good opportunity to consider signing up. And as of today, we have more than 127 signatories from the EU and beyond. We also have a number of actions for research. The Commission supports several projects funded under the Horizon Europe program, some which are already ongoing for a couple of years. And then just to stress, there will be 2 upcoming calls under the new work program 26-27, one looking at VHTs for integrated clinical decision support in prevention and diagnosis, and one under the cancer mission looking at understanding cancer and cancerogenesis. In terms of actions to support infrastructure deployments, I will mention the platform, the Advanced VHT platform. This is really the cornerstone of the initiative. The Commission is procuring this platform, and once it will be available and developed, it will be at the disposal of researchers and innovators working on VHTs, and it will allow them to collaborate and integrate their models, to validate them, to have access to supercomputing capacities in a way that is currently not possible. So we hope that it will be a real game changer in terms of getting to the next generation of virtual human twins. The work on the platform has now started, and there will be a user group, so an opportunity for prospective users to work on supporting the development of the technical requirements for the platform. So if anyone is interested working on this quite technical aspect of the platform, then you're welcome to contact us in DigiConnect. Finally, I will mention this as my final slide. One of the actions to support the last mile, so really the uptake of these solutions in health and care. This is one of the actions that is also listed in the Apply AI strategy, so also goes towards supporting the uptake of AI in the healthcare sector. It's the Virtual Human Twins Uptake Incubator. This is a call that is under the Digital Work Program 25-27, so an upcoming call that aims to set up a knowledge sharing, networking, cooperation and collaboration hub that will support innovators to match supply and demand, so facilitate contacts among potential partners. It will also support compliance with EU laws and rules that apply to VHT solutions or that might apply to them. Provide support services, for example, giving advice on funding opportunities. And finally, increasing the visibility of VHTs and related AI solutions. With this, I thank you very much, and I'm available, of course, for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Margherita. So I will pass on to Jonas. If you could get started to walk us through the case study and your insights on adoption and deployment.
Okay. Thank you, Janaki, and thanks, yes, for inviting us. Indeed, I will pass you through a few of our initiatives, which I think are relevant to digital twins. They are mainly focusing on AI, but as we said, and as it was said before, more and more digital twins are based on AI and incorporate AI. So I think it would be very useful and quite facing the same challenges when we are focusing on deployment. And of course, what I will refer to is very much about scaling up, advancing the deployment of AI in clinical practice. So that's a bit the ecosystem we were trying to explore. Because as I'm sure you know, there is a lot of research and development in the area of AI, but there were some even statistics showing that only 3 to 5% of all this research is actually deployed in clinical practice. So the idea of these initiatives that I will refer to in a minute, it was very much to understand the ecosystem of deployment, why we see this slow deployment, despite that there is quite a lot of research now, and even development, and even FDA and CE-marked approved AI-based medical devices, why so little find itself in actual practice. So this is what I will refer to today, how we are exploring this ecosystem and how we're advancing their deployment. So if I think,
Do you see the slides?
yeah, I can
Perfect.
pass it. Yeah, thank you. So very quickly, just to show you a bit the landscape of where we're now. As you know, and as it was referred to before, there is, how do we scale up AI in healthcare? Of course, we need to, first of all, as it was also referred to in the previous talks, we need to have data, diverse data, because that's how you ensure that AI is generalizing well in different environments, different patients, and so on. And that's the main initiative there is the European Health Data Space, which, as you know, it will provide hundreds and billions of data that would be accessible for AI. Then we need further, how do we enhance trust and acceptability? Of course, there the AI Act pops in. Just to note here that just before Christmas, you may have spotted that the European Commission has proposed amendments to the medical devices regulation, and there could be some impacts on how the extent to which the AI Act would be applicable to AI-based medical devices. So this is work ongoing, just to keep aware that this interplay between MDR, IVDR, and AI Act might be changing in the next months. Then we have liability, which is an important, again, element, the Product Liability Directive. But what I will focus on today is deployment. As I said before, very little goes from research to development to deployment. So the idea was to understand why, dive deeper into this ecosystem of deployment and to the hospital level. So we started exploring this ecosystem of why we have so slow deployment through this study, which was published last July. In this study, in this study, as I said, we aim to explore why there is a slow deployment, what are the most prominent sector-specific challenges for deploying AI, and we have mainly focused, as I said, on clinical care, focusing on healthcare professionals, on hospital managers, on developers, how they see the issue, and including also patients, of course, and academia. And we have explored EU27, however, also other systems to compare good practices. That's why we also looked at the USA, Israel, including Japan too. Now, here at the very beginning, we explored how AI is currently deployed, where, in which sectors, what type, clinical sectors, where is more trusted, where is deployed, and you could see later a bit where, for example, in administration, you can see that it's quite most widespread because there is more trust. I'm sure you can imagine why, because there is more trust to deploy AI in hospitals in administration, but less, for example, a bit more in diagnostics, but a bit less in other areas. And there you can also see how the healthcare professionals feel about it, hospital managers and developers. And as you can see, it explains why they have also different views as to how they perceive this deployment. Then we also ask them to see how they see AI deployed in the next 2-3 years. And we have also this slide there. but I will proceed because I don't have so much time. Here, we also aim to see, and you can find, of course, all these things in our study, we aim to see in which domains, medical domains, we have more widespread AI. Of course, here, it reflects a bit more sources from FDA, because at the time when drafting the study, the EUDAMED, which is the EU database identifying these issues, was still in work in progress, but it very much reflects also EU reality. So mainly, you see AI is most of the pie chart is radiology, as you can see, then is cardiology, then is neurology, and then the rest of the fields. But radiology, as you can see, is really where most of AI is being developed now and deployed. Now, maybe this is the most important slide of the study, and this is where we identified and we split it into 4 categories of why we have slow deployment of AI in clinical practice. We split these into 4 categories, into what we call technological and data challenges, into legal and regulatory challenges, into organizational and business challenges, i.e. at hospital level, how they feel about it, and then social and cultural challenges. And under there, we also get deeper into what the problems are. And if you read the study, of course, it's there. You will see, for example, AI systems performing, and of course, these are post FDA and post CE marking. So here you will see, for example, issues of what we call local performance testing, otherwise local performance rather, i.e. it performs really well in one hospital, but doesn't perform so well in another hospital. And we were exploring and thinking still now the reasons why there is this issue, despite, as I said, they are FDA or CE marked, for example, issues, what is the added value that they give, or the post-deployment monitoring, what type of post-deployment monitoring we could exercise at hospital level, interoperability between medical devices, between electronic health records and medical devices. Of course, whatever I say here, you could also imagine digital twins being part of this bigger ecosystem and facing some of these challenges. Of course, I need to also say that these challenges maybe are not faced by all healthcare facilities the same way. For example, a big university hospital might not be facing with all these challenges, but they're all a remote rural hospital might be facing a bit most of these challenges. So it also depends on the healthcare facility. Now, building now on the study, we kicked off a big initiative which is called Compass AI. This is a big initiative funded by the European Commission, which was kicked off last October. Now we start. It's at the very beginning. It's called, as I said, Compass AI, and you can Google it and find more information about that. Here, building on the study, we are first aiming to create a European network of expertise at EU level. So this would be a big network with specialized network of understanding AI deployment. This network would be tasked to develop a step-by-step guidance of how we deploy AI efficiently, effectively, equitably into clinical practice. So it will be, you may think of it like a blueprint of how you could start, even if you don't know much about AI, how your hospital, your environment could start scaling up and deploying AI in hospital. Then we'll pass it through pilots to the extent how it works. Then will be also a platform that will be created whereby this platform would be collecting evidences from hospitals deploying AI, would be analyzed and will be fed back into this community of experts, whereby they could be adapting the step-by-step guidance. So as you can see, it will be a feedback loop there, a system that we aim to create. Margarita mentioned about the Apply strategy. Just to mention that this Compass AI is also very much one of the flagships of the Apply strategy. So will be one of the main pillars of the Apply strategy. So the results of this project, Compass AI, would fit very much into the Apply strategy, which, as Margarita mentioned, is very much about scaling up AI and advancing deployment. This is how the 2 flagships will work. Compass AI and a flagship which is led by our colleagues in Connect, but these 2 screening centers is the one led by Connect. The other one its network of expertise. The flagship, which is mainly led by Sante, but this is, again, they would be working in a feedback loop, those two, to be feeding each other with evidences and information that we collect. So that would be the punchline. And finally, just to mention also that before Christmas, in this package, which I mentioned before, which included the medical devices regulation proposed amendments, which has an impact, as I mentioned, on the AI Act, there is another proposal, the Biotech Act proposal, which again, it's interesting to look at because there is also a chapter on AI and data. And I may tell you just 1 minute what you would be able to find there. You will see a section, an article actually, which refers to a guidance that it aims to be developed on how we could be using AI in the life cycle of medicine, including clinical trials. So because that was very much also part of the biotech pharmaceutical sector, that's what we aim to also better clarify that. Secondly, it also has an article on what we call AI testing facilities, and there it aims at boosting up experimentational science plus advanced computations plus the real world validation. So it will be this pilot big facilities being created whereby you would be able to boost up research, innovation, and deployment in the biotech sector, wet labs, computationals, AI. So it will be all sorts of these issues that are needed to boost up Europe and render Europe a global leader in this domain. And thirdly, there is also a section on what is called data quality accelerator. This data quality accelerator will be boosting up raw data into improving their quality and make them more fit for AI and for biotech. So it will create this gap we have now of bad quality data or not so good quality data. It will improve their quality. And again, it will build on the European health space to boost up Europe again in this global innovative ecosystem that we are into. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonas, for walking us through in the short span of time that we gave you on so many initiatives from the Commission side. Thank you, Margarita, for you also to walk us through of the VHT initiative and where it is situated from the policy side. Maybe in sake of time, before we leave Jonas, I want to take the first questions towards our colleagues from the Commission. There are a lot of nice initiatives. We are really thankful for these bold, essential steps for the community to nurture these. At the same time, we would like to understand from you, are there specific action points that you would like to see from the member states? I suppose some of the audience in the session here would be looking at how do we see this percolate into our member state? Do you see a call to action or something? What do you see as a problem or a challenge or a call to action for member states in these initiatives? To Jonas and Margarita, whoever would like to take it.
Okay, maybe I can start. Member states, you mean member states at at ministerial level, or member states as of maybe stakeholders in those diverse member states?
Yeah, at the government level, but more also at all levels of stakeholders.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed, actually, we're working with both. I would say both, they have a very important role to play. Of course, we approach these things in different ways. One of them, for example, again, referring to this Compass AI big project we started, as I mentioned, it will create this community of experts at EU level. Of course, it will be a combination of different experts. Of course, it requires high-level expertise to be part of this community that will be created. But the idea is also to be encompassing the diverse stakeholders. So it will be including clinicians with expertise on AI in healthcare deployment. It could be also academics, it could be also patients, it could be also other stakeholders who have expertise. So that's the idea of this committee. But at the same time, also referring to the Apply AI strategy, there is what Margarita showed also a slide there. There was also a little note there on the Alliance forum, whereby, of course, it will create a platform whereby different stakeholders, they could be able to create their own groups there. There could be usual meetings there that we could be also brainstorming and explaining more these projects that we carry out and sharing, of course, ideas and views and creating these communities on these big platforms there. But at the same time, we're also having meetings, of course, with health ministries and other ministries of member states at different networks that we have at commission level and member state level. And again, we're also presenting all this work. So yes, so and of course, any ideas could be also sent to us, and we could see how we could be developing. This is work in progress. And as you can see, this ecosystem of AI is very new, it's very diverse, and any new ideas, any brainstorming ideas, they're all welcome as to how we could also together, because we need to work together, also interdisciplinary wise, but also stakeholders wise, and also member state wise. So that would be indeed the point which I also agree to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas. Maybe I have a follow-up question to which maybe Margarita can comment if she has more to add. So it's really nice to see so many initiatives situated from the Apply AI strategy. I heard the term accelerator, incubator, alliance, booster, and a lot. It's nice, but from the bottom-up approach, as you outlined for the stakeholders in various member states, this can be sometimes overwhelming. Where is this all being coordinated? How do I situate myself, or how do we all see to that these are connected? And what is your suggestion or approach to this? Because from the Commission, probably you see it all really mapped out well, but from a stakeholder point of view, it could be a bit overwhelming. Any comments on that? That we don't do more defragment or fragmentation in these parallel initiatives that don't talk?
Thanks a lot, and this is an interesting question. Of course, from our point of view, we always try to collaborate. As you can see, both Janus and myself are on these meetings, so Santé & Connect collaborate very closely, and we contribute to the initiatives led by DG Santé and DG Connect. So for us, we always strive to avoid fragmentation and really ensure that all of the initiatives work together and build on each other and create synergies so that we avoid duplication, and of course we facilitate also the participation of stakeholders into the different activities. I would say participating in meetings such as this one, or for example signing up to the VHT manifesto, that's also another great way of keeping in touch with all the different activities that we launch or we support at EU level. So already for those who are on the line, this is a great first step to learn more about different strands. But of course, we're also open to feedback and suggestion from the stakeholders. We have different avenues by which we consult with stakeholders or we hear from them. We organized a high-level event for stakeholders in October last year on the European VHT initiative. So we try really to keep in touch with the ground. So of course, happy to receive any observations or comments. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe just to add one single point on the, yes, because this is an interesting question indeed, as Margarita said, and this is something we also spotted as one of the big challenges in the AI study, that the stakeholders are a bit confused with not only regulatory complexity, but also complexity of how to navigate the landscape, even how to find funding, how to approve something, and so on. So indeed, we're trying even concretely to address this issue. That's why also Compass AI, one of the, as I said, blueprints is to create this step-by-step guidance of how do you navigate through deployment of AI into clinical practice. So that's the first, I could even say, concrete step that we aim to carry out. But also we have seen the same thing in the Biotech Act. And that's why we're also aiming to have some initiatives in the biotech, how to aid the stakeholders navigating through what regulation exists, step by step, how they can understand the regulations, how they could understand where funding is, and so on. So this is something that we're also exploring even deeper, I can tell you, in the Biotech Act. So yeah, there could be more stuff coming up.
Yeah, thank you, Janos, for the clarification and the enthusiasm to give us opportunity also to share our feedback. Maybe a good bridge immediately is a question from Martin Golubski on the validation of AI methods, because some of these are time critical or mission critical situations where we may not have enough time. So maybe Professor Gernot, if you would like to comment there together with Professor Harris, if you could complement of how we can gain some credibility of these models. And finally, I would pass to Godse to comment on the responses that come. For the sake of time, I'm just
Yes, short answers. Thank you for this very important question. So in my view, so far we looked always towards retrospective data in the clinical scenario, and what we need to have the guts to prove it in a prospective manner, as we usually do. So prospective randomized trials using in one group AI algorithms, in another group standard therapy, and see the outcome. This is the urgent next step, basically. And then we have a scientific proof of evidence that this is really beneficial.
Yeah, we can maybe to this, there are new techniques, technologies, AI technologies developed every day that specifically focus also on reducing the hallucination part by verifying the predictions that are made. All of that in the real-time aspect that is required. And in addition to that, Martin, as you are involved also in the standards discussion, I think there's also a role to play, maybe not on the specifics, how to do for each technology, how to show the credibility, but in the general principles, such as are going to be discussed later in the ISO IEC TC62.
Yes. Maybe you have any pressing comments on this also, or in general from what you have listened in the last half an hour?
I'll be very brief. Listening into the Commission's view as well. I mean, it's also hearing from Dr. Gernot as well. I think the key here is we're advancing a lot, and we're advancing very fast in the AI technologies and digital technologies. The transparency piece we all touched base on. If that does not happen, and if we don't walk the same steps as the users, call it the healthcare professionals, call it the patients, call it the citizens, it is not going to have impact, and it's not going to have an uptake. So there are going to be systems that we will put aside that we will not be able to use. So I think we are all agreeing on the same thing. The technology shall advance, but it should always take into account the transparency piece, also the responsible use of data when we are advancing with those technologies. So that would be from my side, I guess, the uptake. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a very pressing question that I cannot ignore before we finish the session. The question from Hans Bevers, critically highlighting how are we going to move these things in the concept of hospital at home, especially for managing chronic conditions in order to suppress the intake and expenses of inpatient care. I think it's a question for all of the panelists. Whoever would like to take on, for sure, I would like to hear from the policymakers to start with if they are ready, or others can jump in. Please. If I have to repeat the question, how do you see the future of hospital at home for chronic conditions to manage the intake and expenses of inpatient care? How do you see these technologies in this future concept of hospital at home?
Okay, maybe I can jump in a bit and say some stuff. Yes, I think as I understand the question is about even helping, I mean the reducing the need or helping new technologies, helping patients at home, reducing the need. Maybe I would even put it in a broader context there, if I understand correctly the question of how AI, and also linking it a bit, how we can improve equity with AI, because I would say this could be very useful, the idea here to be using new technologies, including AI, to provide good healthcare in remote areas where maybe they don't have these facilities now as enjoyed by patients and citizens in big metropolitan cities and close to big hospitals. So I would see a big interesting domain we should look into is how do we enhance equity. I think there is two sides of this coin now. How we ensure first that AI does not create a digital divide and it enhances even better healthcare in big hospitals and leaves remote places behind, but also how do we ensure that AI could be boosting up remote areas and remote care. This is something actually we picked up in the study. We have some little sections in the study on remote areas because that was something, an equity, because it's something that we were also interested at, but also it's something that we also pick up in our new project on Compass AI. It is one of the Compass AI focuses in two areas mainly, cancer and remote areas. So what I was saying before, Compass AI has also two these special focus areas. So this is what we also aim to look a bit deeper. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Beatrice, could you comment your question, or you would like to speak, because we are running short of time. I don't want to go over 16:30. If you can comment, then we will see if we can answer it now or come back to you as part of the feedback. Or otherwise, I will now pass to Professor Harris to wind up the session as we are hitting 16:30 to be on time and respectful for all of your interest in joining us today.
Thank you, Janaki. Let me first start by thanking all of the panel speakers again that joined us today and that gave this overview. It really set a very good scene for the second webinar and also for the position paper. So we have now gotten all your input. We will reflect on them and also already provide some input when we meet again in March for the second webinar, where we, as we have indicated before, will focus more on examples showing how to really go from the conception to the application and the uptake and go into dialogue with regulatory HTA and the payer community. So with that, I would like to point people that have joined us today and are not yet in the HPP network to this through the QR code to the network. It does require that you are already part of the health policy platform. If you're not yet part of the policy platform, this link doesn't take you anywhere. But please join the policy platform, and then you can find the network very easily. And we're always very happy to help should you have any other questions. And any inputs are always welcome between now and March, or anytime related to these topics. So thank you very much again to the speakers, to my co-host Janaki, to the organizers of the HPP, and to all of you for being here with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.